911, what is your emergency?
I just found a body. I don't know what to do.
Government officials insist that this is an isolated incident.
You are listening to Nightcap, a true crime podcast where we drink a little, okay, maybe a lot, and deep dive into horrific murders, sinister crimes, and unsolved mysteries.
Each week, we will take you on a thrill-ride adventure into the juicy details surrounding famous and unheard-of cases.
Including authentic reactions from rotating co-hosts and insight from trained professionals that give you a real forensic look into true crime.
Be warned, this podcast does contain explicit content and graphic descriptions of real-life accounts and cases. Listener discretion is definitely advised.
Thank you for tuning in to Hometown Horrors Part 2.
All right, guys, so we're jumping in next with the second case of our episode. And this is on Robert Lee Yates, Jr., or also known as Bobby, like his mother called him. I thought that was cute. Or also known as...
my dad's name.
Oh, weird.
Bobby.
Well, hopefully your dad is nothing like him.
We'll see. I'm kidding, Dad. I love you.
Or he's also known as the Spokane serial killer. All right, so he is a serial killer. His characteristics were rape and murder. His number of victims was 16 to 18 or more, because we don't really know. We don't really know.
18, lots.
Roughly, if not, yeah. So I'm going to start off with his early life just to give you guys a little background on Robert Lee Yates. He was born on May 27th in 1952 in Anacortes, Washington, to Anna Mae and Robert Yates Sr. And he was also an only child. And I thought I would throw this in because I learned about this and I was like, there's kind of relevancy here. But before Yates was born, Yates's grandmother actually murdered his grandfather with an axe.
Oh my God.
Back in 1945. Yeah. I was like, relevant? I kind of thought so. I'm like, okay, so it runs in the family, apparently.
Exactly.
Okay. He grew up in Oak Harbor, Washington. He was a part of a normal middle-class family, and they even attended a Seventh Adventist church. And in 1958, Yates was actually molested by an older boy in his neighborhood at the age of 6. And in a phone interview I listened to that was done a couple months back, he had explained that like this older neighborhood boy actually just like took him to an abandoned building and like ripped his clothes off and did whatever he could think of to Yates. And he kind of let this go on without telling anybody until he actually got arrested. Yeah. So, I mean, kind of a little bit of like a psychological background there, but he graduated Oak Harbor High School in 1970. And he began attending the Skagit Valley Community College. And he got married to his first wife, Shirley Nylander, and they married in 1972, but that didn't last very long. And they were divorced in 1974. But after that, in that same year, oh, am I talking fast? I get a little passionate. That same year, he actually met his new wife, Linda Brewer, and they're married till this day. She couldn't divorce him, even though they're not technically together, she says now, but they're still married. She didn't want to divorce him.
Yikes.
I mean, is that loyal?
Bitch. Yeah. Like
I don't know. They have 4 daughters and 1 son together. In 1975, he was hired by the Washington State Corrections as a prison guard at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. And after 6 months of working there, he enlisted into the United States Army, where he became a certified to fly civilian airplanes and helicopters. He was stationed all over the world and even earned several medals and awards across his 19-year career, retiring in March of 1996. And after retiring, that's when Yates moved to Spokane, and he moved to the South Hill in a beige 2-story rancher. And then also after that time, he was also working in Tacoma, Washington with the National Guard. So he drove back and forth, which that becomes relevant later in the story. But with all of his background knowledge, like that seems like a pretty normal upbringing. I mean, besides the grandmother,
grandma,
and the molestation, but pretty normal guy, you know, just like family man, got some kids. Okay, so now I'm going to dive into these murders, and they are going to seem a little repetitive, but I wanted to explain each and every one of them just to kind of show this pattern that he had created. And so bear with me here, but it's super interesting. So the first people he actually killed was Patrick Oliver, who was 21, and Susan Savage, who was 22. And their bodies were discovered. They were discovered shot dead and located by Mill Creek near Walla Walla on July 14th in 1975. So this is dating back. This is the very first one. So he was only like 23 at the time. And then so the next murder was Stacy E. Hahn, and she was 23. She was last seen alive in Seattle on July 7th, 1988. And her skeletal remains were found 5 months later in Skagit County. And next up we have Shannon Zielinski. She was 38. She was found June 14th, 1996. So we're fast forwarding quite a bit here.
Oh, wow.
She was found near Holcomb Road and Mount Spokane Drive in Spokane, which is crazy.
Damn.
Yeah. And so I'm going to get deep on the roads that these women were found on, because like me and Gavin live in Spokane our whole life. So I recognize these roads. So it's super interesting, especially if you live in Spokane. And then we have Heather Hernandez. She was 20. She was found August 26, 1997 in an overgrown and abandoned lot in Spokane. And she had only moved to Spokane a month earlier.
Oh.
She got shorted in the stick there. And then Jennifer Joseph, she was only 16. She was by far the youngest victim that Yates ever came in contact with. And she was found on August 26, 1997 on Forker and Judkins Road in Spokane. Her body was in a high state of decomposition. The cause of death was a gunshot wound to the chest, and semen was found inside of her corpse.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
Wait, so the first two were in the 70s, and then he like just chilled until the 90s.
Yeah, basically.
Interesting.
The first two he had ever killed was in 95, and then the next one after that was 1988. And these are all the ones that we know of that he
Yeah.
And then after that, it was 1996.
It's crazy.
And in 1997, that's when he started his spree in like Spokane. So then Darla Sue Scott was also found on November 5th, 1997. Her decomposing body was found by a man walking his dog near Hangman Valley
Yes.
Road.
Yeah. That's why you shouldn't go on walks.
So many details.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I'm like, just walking your dog, find a corpse. But there was 2 plastic bags were found at the scene. Her cause of death was 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Semen was also found inside of her body. Belinda Mercer, 24, found on December 7th, 1997 on South 50th Street in Tacoma. 4 plastic bags covered her head. Cause of death was 3 gunshot wounds to the head, and semen was found inside of her body. Sean Johnson was next, 36, found December 18th, 1997, also off of Hangman Valley Road. The cause of death was 2 gunshot wounds to her head. That was covered in 2 plastic bags when she was found. Semen was again found in her body. Laurel Watson.
He didn't want to look at these people. Like, he didn't want to see their faces.
Well,
is what it seems like.
Well, the thing is these women were all shot and killed before they were transported and dumped. And during transportation is when they got the bags covering their heads.
Oh.
It seems like you're trying to make sure you don't make a big old mess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's.
I mean, that's what I gathered from it. I was like,
don't get it in the car.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have Laurel Wason, 31. She was found December 26th in a gravel pit near Hangman Valley Road again. 3 plastic bags, 2 gunshots. Semen was also found. Now we have Sean McClanahan, 39. She was found the same time next to the body of Laurel Wason. 3 bags also covered her head, 2 gunshot wounds to her head as well, and semen was also found. So they found those 2 right next to each other. Same spot, like they were within like yards of each other.
That's awful.
How many years apart? Like,
oh, we're within 2 years now.
Jesus.
So those last like 4 or 5 were 96 to 98 is when a majority of these killings happened. So I told you it's going to get repetitive, but there was that many women from 2 years.
Jeez.
And the consistencies,
town and country.
Exactly. The consistencies within these women and the way that they were killed, the way that they were found, and the semen area, it's all basically the same. That's why I want to kind of like show you guys how many, because it was a lot. I was mind blown. And this is listening.
She's consistent, I guess. I don't know.
OCD much?
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have Linda Maben, 34. She was found April 1st, 1998. Her decomposed body is found just 50 yards from Wasson and McClanahan's crime scene. 2 plastic bags, 1 gunshot wound to the head, and semen was also found. So he apparently really liked dumping bodies near Hangman Valley Road. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of found within that same.
What is that?
It's in the valley.
You keep talking. I'm going to Google some shit.
All right, next we have Michelin Durning. She was 47. She was found July 7th, 1998. And she was found under a hot tub cover in an area frequented by sex workers in Spokane's East Central neighborhood. 1 gunshot wound to the head. Her body was not transported and dumped like the other victims, and no semen was found in her body. So she was like the only one out of his like actual confirmed killings that wasn't transported and wasn't like messed with any sexual way after that.
Interesting.
Yeah, super weird. It makes you wonder if he like got caught short in the act or I don't know. But next we have Connie LaFontaine Ellis. She was 35. She was found October 13th, 1998 in a ditch near the 1700 block of 108th South Street in Tacoma. She had 3 plastic bags over her head, 1 gunshot wound to the head. And when I listened to this interview, a little fun fact, I'm going to just sneak in here. I listened to an interview and Yates actually admitted to starting to use crack cocaine after the murder of Connie LaFontaine Ellis.
No, might as well just throw that into the mix.
And so after that, he didn't commit any more murders.
Really?
Which is kind of interesting. I don't know, but he openly admitted that. He was like, I basically, switched routes and focused on crack cocaine after the murder of Connie LaFontaine Ellis.
Like the murders were an addiction and just transfer it to something else. Yeah.
Right.
I did that with food when I got sober. Just started eating.
But another honorable mention was Melody Murfin. She was 43 and she disappeared in 1998 and her body was not found, but she was always included on the victim list. Interesting. So they just included her in there, but that'll come by later when I'll explain that.
Ooh.
Okay, so now we're going to get I know. Just wait. So here we go. This is where it gets interesting. So this is how it happened. This is how Robert Lee Yates actually went under the knife from the task force that was assigned to find all of these women because they knew they had a serial killer on the loose. I mean, this was, 12 girls in the matter of 2 years that this had happened.
Fucking insane. And that's so many people.
In 2 years? 2 fucking years? Yeah.
It's an epidemic.
Yeah, pretty much. And all in the same places. And they had all the DNA evidence because they kept finding semen. Kept finding, fingerprints on the bags. Kept finding.
But he hadn't been arrested, so therefore.
Well, exactly. They were just looking for John off of, because these were all, I got to note that these were all sex workers in Spokane.
That's so crazy.
All these women, besides, the women that were found in Tacoma, they were known sex workers in Tacoma. But the first ones, Patrick Oliver and Susan Savage, they were just random bystanders. So they didn't really tie into that kind of pattern that he had. Yeah. But
Patrick,
he killed one man.
Oh,
one man.
He was a sex worker too?
No. So Patrick Oliver and Susan Savage were just having a picnic.
Oh.
Out in Mill Creek near Walla Walla.
Just enjoying their fucking sandwiches.
And they came across Robert Yates and it was a bad day. So real bad day.
That was the one in the 70s, right?
Yeah, that was
quite gotten his groove yet.
Yeah. So that was actually when he was working at the Washington State Penitentiary as a prison guard, is when he committed the first murders, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
Those were the first ones of the bunch before he kind of switched his outlook to only victimize the sex workers.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of strange. I mean, they were his starting out. It's weird. Makes no sense. But then he got a pattern down and he just kind of stuck with it, I guess.
They were the trial run.
Apparently. As fucked up as that is.
I know. Sorry.
All right. So this is where it gets juicy because the catch of Robert Yates it's pretty juicy. So actually in 1996, Yates's wife, Linda, she found motel receipts. And not long after that, his daughter, Sonia, found an address book in her father's lunch pail with women's names she didn't recognize. But when they confronted Yates about it, he claims he was only looking for car parts.
Car parts?
That's what he's told his wife and his daughter. He was just looking for car parts.
Because all these women have car parts?
And motel receipts. He was meeting at motels to find car parts.
What year was this?
That was in 1996. So that's when the
fucking Craigslist wasn't even a thing.
Yeah. So that's when the spree started, and that's when they were already kind of catching on. But then get this. So that same year, his wife Linda catches her husband cleaning blood out of his van. Yet Yates claims he had only hit a dog and that it had died on the way to taking the dog to the vet. And that's why he was cleaning blood out of his van. Because he, as the good man that he was, he picked the dog up and he let it bleed all over his seats, and then he was just cleaning it up. After he tried to take it to the vet, but it died anyway. He's a master of excuses, so we'll just put that out there. So then we fast forward to September 1997. The investigation into the prostitution murders was now in full spring, with detectives and undercover officers frequenting the area where sex workers were known to work, which was Sprague Avenue at the time, which was like Spokane's Skid Row. That's what they called it, because it was, a couple block radius, and it was just known for that. And Sprague has now cleaned up a lot. I'll say that. Gavin, do you agree with that?
Yes, Sprague is actually looking pretty nice, and eventually you'll get to see what it was and what it is now on our blog.
Yeah, it's quite the difference, even within like the last 20 something years. But so this is when police first came into contact with Yates, when Yates was stopped for a traffic violation in a 1977 white Corvette near East Sprague Avenue, but he was just ticketed and he was allowed to leave. But where he was picked up or pulled over was only 2.5 miles away from where a slain woman's body had recently been found.
Oh my God.
So that was the first little tick in the connection that they had made.
Yeah.
And then in May 1998, Yates sold his white Corvette to Rita Jones of Spokane. So you got rid of that one. November 1998, Yates and Jennifer Robinson, a known sex worker, were pulled over at 1:25 a.m. in a Honda Civic near the area where women were disappearing. But Yates claims to the officers that she was a friend's daughter that he was driving home. I told you, master of excuses. This man.
Oh my God.
But Robinson acknowledged the story of who Yates was and what was happening, quote unquote. And so there was little the police could do but take a field report of the incident. Robinson, little to her knowledge, though, was one of the lucky ones because he did not murder her. She walked out alive. But just 2 days later from this incident, Yates' middle daughter complained to the police that her father hits me all the time, and he was charged with misdemeanor assault. So he kind of got a little bit on the radar with that one, too.
Yeah.
But sadly enough, in January 1999, Yates' misdemeanor charges were dropped as long as he, quote unquote, does not do anything similar for the next 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
That's the justice system in full effect there. No CPS, no nothing. Just drop it all. Sorry, I get a little heated about this case because it's just such a piss off.
Ridiculous. Like.
Okay, so now we're going to go down a rabbit hole, though. So we're going to fast forward to August 1999. And it gets a little intense. This is when a report was filed by 30-year-old Christine L. Smith, claiming she had been the victim of an assault and robbery while working on Sprague Avenue. So according to Smith, she had been picked up by a date near East 124th Short Street by a man in a 70s model black van. She described the van as having dark brown seats and a mattress in the back. She also described the driver as a Caucasian man, 50 years of age approximately, 5'10", 175 pounds, with a medium build, sandy blonde hair, no facial hair, and a pock-marked face, which I had to look that up.
Yeah, what is that?
It's like named after like when you get chicken pox as a child and it leaves scars on your face, almost like acne scars.
Got it. Okay.
So
I've never heard that before.
Like,
chicken pox? That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like indentations, like scars in your face. So she said I had to look that up too. I was like, what is a pock-marked face? But yeah, fun fact, that's what that is. And so she also claimed he did not reek of booze or act drunk like her other dates usually did. And so after negotiating a price for her services, she had her date drive her to an empty parking lot near East 405th Street. And she recalls while en route, the man told her he was a helicopter pilot for the National Guard. She had even asked the man if he was the psycho killer, and to which he responded that he was not. He had 5 children and would never do something like that.
Oh,
I'm telling you, master of excuses.
She asked
multiple times. She recalls asking
that
him
sounds
multiple
like some
times,
shit I would have pulled
You're
too.
not this guy, right? You're not this guy.
Shit.
Yeah. And a lot of the girls that were interviewed after Yates had actually been arrested were saying the same thing. They were like, I know him. He was so nice. He was so normal. I had no idea. I feel stupid because as, you know, a sex worker, you should trust your gut into knowing that these men are safe, because that's what you have to do in that field is trust your gut. And a lot of them were shocked because they're like, they had no idea that was who that was until they seen his face.
All-American man with his white fence and his blue shuttered house.
And his 5 kids and a wife.
Oh, gosh.
And his army medals.
Never.
I could never.
Exactly. So after arriving in the parking lot, the date paid her $40 for oral sex. And at that point, they moved to the back of the van to the mattress, where she performed for about 5 to 7 minutes.
That's it.
Okay, but get this. During that time, she claims that the entire duration of oral sex, the man never became erect.
Ooh.
That sucks for you, buddy.
Right. So
What a trooper, though, she is. Like, I would have just been like, nah.
For real. Where's my $40 fucking dollars?
I gotta go.
you guys don't understand how big of a trooper this girl really is, because get this. At some point after the 5 to 7 minutes, the man hit Smith over the head with an object she could not identify, leaving her nearly unconscious.
Oh.
She then, after the incident, had realized that he shot her in the head.
Oh my God.
And it did not kill her. It nearly knocked her unconscious. Okay, so then
Oh my God.
she fell backwards. She struggled to keep herself and her senses intact. I mean, she was just fucking shot. So.
Yeah.
But after the blow, the man demanded his money back, all while she struggled to find an exit from the back of the van unsuccessfully. While trying to pull the money out of her pants pocket to give back to the man,
Oh my God.
blood dripping from her head, she miraculously made it to the passenger door and fled the scene alive.
Holy fucking
shit.
Yeah, she got out, you guys. She got shot in the dome and got out of that fucking, and all the way, she was still trying to give the dude his fucking money back. I would have just been like trying to leave. Crazy shit. So she later received 3 stitches and a half-inch wound above and behind her left ear. And after leaving the hospital,
Did they know that she was shot?
they later told her that when she requested the hospital report that she did get shot and they had to pull the pieces of the bullet out of the wound. It hit her in like a perfect spot in her head that it like stopped the bullet.
Holy
and she
fuck.
was just left with a gash in her head that she just needed to get some pieces of the bullet taken out and then sewed back
And
shut.
3
And she did it.
stitches. Imagine
And
getting
she
shot.
the whole time.
3 stitches.
Yeah, I'm fine.
And a half-inch little, you know.
Yeah. A little bunk in the head. It was fine.
Oh, God. Yeah. So after leaving the hospital, she contacted police with the most detailed reports on Yates to the date. I mean, the police at that time could not link it to Yates, but they were going to, you know, we'll find out. We're going to use it later. But in the phone interview that Yates just had done in November, he was saying about this whole incident that she pissed him off because after only 5 minutes, she was demanding money and wanted him to hurry up, which made him angry.
Oh, the poor
And
baby.
so that's why he claims that he tried to shoot her in the head. And so he said after he shot her in the head, because she pissed him off, he was shocked that she didn't just flop over and die like the rest of them. Those are his words.
Jesus.
Those are his words. Flop over, fall over and die like the rest of them. And why he didn't shoot her in the head again, he didn't know.
He's probably fucking fascinated.
That's what I'm saying. And he let her just split. He was probably just like,
I think, well, this is a thing now.
I was mad, but this girl's got some spirit.
I think this is a robot.
God. Oh my gosh, yeah. This is crazy. Okay.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a little juicy. So then we're going to go forward to on September 14th, 1999, one of the task force detectives paid a visit to the Yates home located on 2220 East 49th Street in Spokane, looking for Yates, but he was unavailable. A message was left to Yates to contact authorities, to which he complied and met with detectives at the public safety building later that day. And upon arrival, the officials immediately noted that he had sandy blonde hair and he was, quote unquote, sweating profusely. I wonder why.
Balls.
Yeah. So then detectives had told Yates that he was under suspicion for a connection with the serial murder investigation, although he was not a confirmed suspect at that time. Yates was first questioned about the stop in November 1998 with Jennifer Robinson, the known sex worker, where he repeated the same story, that he knew her father and was driving her home. But that was also a super common story that men caught with sex workers would say.
Yeah.
And they were like, I know her. I'm just driving her. Just trying to help her out. I mean, that's what Donna Perry had said. I'm just trying to help him out.
I'm just trying to help him out. That's right.
Want to get him off the street, you know? But the detectives even told him that. They were like, that's a bullshit story. But Yates, he still stuck to his story. And when asked the girl's name that he was pulled over with, he had difficulty remembering. And when asked her father's name, he had no recollection at all.
Oh my God, make something up, bro. Like, you've already done it.
You're a master of excuses and you can't even, yeah. But even though he had claimed to work with the father for like an amount of time, that's how he knew the daughter was through the father. But then
terrible liar.
Out of all of them, that's the one that just stumped him. Like,
you could have been like, yeah. So then they were like, so then he claimed to drove the girl home and to her house that was just off of Mission Avenue. So after that, detectives bluntly told Yates that they did not believe his story and that they could easily check the authenticity with Jennifer's father. And even after they threatened that, Yates maintained that he told nothing but the truth. And he also refused to give DNA samples to the detectives, claiming that it would be too extreme for a family man.
What? Maybe he thought they were talking about that whole like butthole swab thing we talked about.
Yeah, I can't give a butthole swab. I'm a family man. It's so funny. God. So the detectives, they followed through with their word, though. I mean, they didn't contact Jennifer Robinson's father, but they did contact Jennifer Robinson the very next day. And they asked her what she had recalled from the incident that when she got pulled over with Robert Yates. And she had told detectives that she remembered they had reached an agreement for her to perform oral sex for $20. She said that when the police had stopped them, she instructed Yates to tell the story about her father, which she also admitted was indeed not fucking true.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure she had used that excuse many times before. I mean, it's kind of smart, but she also told police that her father did not even live in Spokane and had never worked with Yates.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like now need to get that deep into the explanation at that point, but okay.
I know. I mean, she's
going to believe you, lady. Okay.
I mean, she knew that she wasn't going to go under for anything at that point. They were just trying to find the murderer. So she was like, what do I have to lose? I mean, I would have did the same thing. Like, yeah, fuck that fucker, you know? So they now knew that they had caught Yates in a lie, obviously. So the task force considered him an even more potent suspect and decided to hunt down his white Corvette, which was noted, I should say, by a witness in Jennifer Joseph's murder, that a white Corvette was the last place Jennifer was seen. And that was the 16-year-old girl. So another sex worker on the street that they had interviewed had said that was the last time that she had seen her was entering a white Corvette.
I totally forgot about all the Corvettes. I remember back in the day on the news, they had been looking for Corvettes. Totally forgot about that whole part.
It was a huge part in the story, but it was actually when they had pulled him over with Jennifer Robinson, the guy that had ticketed him and let him go wrote down in the police report that he had a white Camaro instead.
Yep.
So it kind of delayed
car guy.
Catching on. Yeah, apparently, but it delayed them even catching on to Yates because that was a huge thing, that a witness statement that was like, she was last seen getting into this white Corvette, and they didn't make the connection until they looked into Yates and realized that he owned a white Corvette. And then they were like, oh shit, that goes together.
Oh my God.
So they tracked down his white Corvette with a new owner, the Rita Jones in Spokane, and she had completely consented to a full search of the vehicle, and which they found several fiber samples, and they were collected from throughout the car. But evidence was also uncovered that Yates had the Corvette's carpet replaced twice within a 2-year period.
What?
Which that's not fishy at all. I mean,
That's sketchy as fuck.
Oh, sorry. I was just shitting all over it.
I've replaced a lot of things in vehicles.
And that's not
the
even
upholstery in the carpet is not one of them.
And that's not even the vehicle he hit the damn dog in. That was his van.
Jesus.
Oh my
You didn't
God.
replace the carpet in the van, but you're gonna replace the carpet twice in your shiny white Corvette and then get rid of it, bro? I don't know. So,
bro.
Sorry, this it pisses me off, you guys, to no end. I'm like, this fucking guy, dude. So, but then Yates' former employer also confirmed that Yates had driven and owned a mid-'80s model Ford van. And the date that he had acquired the van was 2 to 3 months before the incident involving Christine Smith, the survivor that got shot in the head, which she had described an 80s colored dark, 80s model dark van. So then that got confirmed. So then April 5th, 2000, forensic evidence comes back confirming a close match between fibers found in the Corvette and fibers recovered from the Jennifer Joseph murder investigation. And with this new evidence emerging, they obtained a warrant to impound the Corvette for additional testing. So then they just took it. Detectives then found blood throughout the Corvette that indeed matched the blood of poor Jennifer Joseph. At this point, they knew they had got him and that he was the killer. So then Tuesday, April 18th, 2000, Robert Yates Jr. was arrested for just the murder of Jennifer Joseph. So that one little thing.
Hey, that
one little.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had admitted in his interviews too that he was like, that Corvette is what, it's what caught me.
Yeah.
That's what did it. Was that one witness account and then that link.
Well, don't go out killing people in a fucking...
In a white Corvette.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or a fucking van. Jesus.
Of all things you could be killing women in, you're going to pick a creeper fucking van.
Drive a Prius like a normal motherfucker.
So actually, fun fact, after that Christine had escaped, he had claimed in this interview that he went home and he spray painted this orange stripe that was along his van. He spray painted it to match the rest of his van because he was so scared that Christine Smith was going to identify his van as like this dark model van with an orange stripe on it, which was kind of peculiar and it was different and it set it apart. So he immediately went home and spray painted the stripe.
Painted over the stripe?
Painted over the stripe to make it just a dark van so that it wasn't going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Like a just, at home spray paint job isn't going to stick out. Super cash.
Yeah, this man's mindset though is like, you wouldn't finish the job, but you're going to go home and give your car a paint job. It's so beyond me. I can't empathize with it.
He couldn't finish the job in multiple senses of the word.
Oh,
couldn't even get a rack for 5 to 7 minutes. Okay. So this is when they really start smacking down on him. So they, after they had arrested him, they obviously issued a warrant out for his DNA because they could get it now. Because even though he was a family man or not, they could get his DNA. So after they took his DNA, they found a match to sperm samples taken from the victims Scott, Johnson, Wason, McClanahan, Mercer, Oster, Mabin, and Durning. Remember all those girls with sperm found inside of them? Yeah. All matches.
Damn.
All matches. And on April 25th, 2000, a fingerprint match was made between the Yates and the bag that was found on McClanahan's head upon discovery of her body. And so they got him on this, tons of DNA shit.
Yeah.
But police had also tracked down Yates' 79 Ford van, in which they discovered more blood and a spent MagTech .25 bullet casing that matched the weapons used in the murder of Johnson, Wason, McClanahan, Oster, Mabin, Ellis, and Mercer. So they got him.
Bullet casings winding up in cars. I don't get it.
For real?
What are you doing?
Popping bits inside your car.
Yeah.
Fell down my sleeve.
And relating back to your story with Donna, when they searched through the white Corvette, which I didn't say earlier, but they found a parole button a button made of actual pearl that was missing off of the shirt that was found on Jennifer Johnson's body. Or Jennifer Joseph. Her body was found in a shirt that was missing a pearl button, and he had gotten the car detailed, gotten the carpet removed, la-di-da. They'd ripped that carpet out and found it in the passenger seat, like hidden under it. So that even pinpointed, even further was just this one pearl fucking button that he had forgotten underneath.
Just think about that, y'all. If you want to kill somebody in your car, they will find some shit
under your carpets, bro.
Let's just not do it.
I think you're good because you're not good.
Yeah.
Okay, so after that, Yates was then charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths in Spokane, as well as 1 count of first-degree attempted murder and 1 count of first-degree burglary, which was the assault committed on the survivor, Christine Smith. And all of those, he pleaded not guilty. Yates was also charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in Pierce County for the slayings of Connie LaFontaine Ellis and Melinda Mercer. He also pleaded not guilty. But yet another murder Yates was suspected of committing was the death of missing Melody Murfin. Remember her?
Mm-hmm.
Although without the body, they could not link Yates to the murder or the disappearance. October 16th, 2000, Yates, with a disgusting amount of evidence against him and an almost guaranteed certainty of receiving the death penalty, announced that he was ready to strike a deal.
Thanks.
Yeah, super nice guy. Super nice.
Yeah.
In exchange for receiving life in prison instead of death, he was willing to plead guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree attempted murder, but would not plead guilty to the 2 charges in Pierce County. So he didn't want to plead guilty to those ones. And on top of that, he would also lead police to the body of missing Melody Murfin. That was in his plea deal. Yeah.
Damn.
Did he do it?
Yeah, the prosecutors agreed. I mean, it was very much against the victims' families. Like the detectives that went through and asked all the families, like, you know, he wants to strike a deal. He wants to admit to like these murders. And I think they had tagged him for 11. He was going to plead guilty to 13, which tied him to even more murders, and Melody Murfin, which made it even more. Yeah. I think she was in the 13 counts, but I think it was like 18 of them wanted him to spend life in prison, and like less than that wanted him to face death. So they had went and took the plea deal because they wanted to find this body, which was like a big deal to them. So they agreed to the terms of his offer. And with that, Yates disclosed the location of Murfin's body. But get this.
Oh, God.
Are you ready? It was in his own fucking yard.
Holy shit. How do you just like throw that one in there? Like,
yeah.
That's wild.
Only one. And Melody Murfin's daughter was pissed because they had searched his fucking house, top to bottom, poked through his yard multiple times on multiple occasions, trying to dig up whatever they could on him. And they did not find her body until he literally drew a fucking map on a piece of paper.
Oh my God.
And it led them. And it wasn't just in his yard. It was in his fucking front yard, for one. What?
Holy shit.
And it was in a flower bed. And it was 1 foot away from his house foundation. And it was underneath his fucking bedroom window.
What?
Him and his wife's bedroom window. Yeah.
I wonder if he had some sort of like weird personal connection to her, you know, like, or something where he wanted to keep her like that. Cause that's just so like, that's a pretty extreme detail. And
this dead girl is buried feet from my
bed. She was found, they dug her up. She was wrapped in plastic, which was unlike any of the other girls that were just dumped. Like it was almost like extra care. And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, how the fuck, like in your front yard? Like, how did you pull that off?
Yeah,
like
that's impressive.
Like your neighbors on the South Hill were just like, oh, homeboy's just gardening in his flower bed, you know, in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Just,
I don't know.
Jesus Christ. That's just so, yeah, it's such a jump from the rest of them. Like, it's just bizarre.
It's super different. I mean, there was the one that was found underneath the hot tub cover. Like that was right off of like Sprague, but I mean, that was a little different, but that seemed like a rushed job. Whereas this seems like more methodical.
Yeah. He put more.
Yeah. Super weird. And Melody Murfin's daughter had actually claimed, or like in her statement to Yates in the courtroom was like, her interview with ID Investigation was saying she was pissed because they had overlooked and scraped through his whole property. How could they not find him without cutting him a deal to save his life? You know,
but
in
I
her
mean,
mind,
if
she was
they
like,
weren't looking for that, I mean, you know, I mean, none of them were like, that's not like they're like, oh, we have a feeling like, I don't know. There's no way that you would have found that without knowing that you were looking for it. Like,
right.
It doesn't, I don't know.
I mean, they did say that they had looked over his yard multiple times, but I don't think they were like necessarily. I think when they had dug her up, they said that she was like 3 to 4 feet underground.
Yeah.
Unless you dug up his entire yard, I mean, you couldn't really find it. But I do understand like Melody Murfin's daughter's, you know, issue with that. Like, you guys figured that out before making a plea to save his life, because in her mind and in a lot of people's minds, they were like, this man killed, you know, 13 to 18 plus people. Mm-hmm. What is that not the perfect time to use the death sentence? And if not then when, you know? Yeah. So it's super interesting. So then 2 weeks later after that, Yates did plead guilty to all promised counts and was sentenced to 408 years in prison.
Damn.
And he was also fined over like $600,000 too. Which,
how the fuck did someone pay that much money back while they're in jail?
That's exactly what I said when I read that. I was like, how is he going to pay that off? Even if he can work, they make like 10 cents an hour in prison, if that.
Yeah. Is that typical for them to be like, hey, you're going to be here forever. Also, like, give us some cash. Like, I don't.
Yeah, that's super. That's what I thought too. I was like, that's weird because usually they just put him in jail. I've never really heard of a fine, but I read that it was like $600,000 in fines. And I'm like, ugh. And are they really going to get that? I don't know. Are they going to get that money? I don't know. But so get this. So he made the plea to save his life because he didn't want to die. But remember those 2 Pierce County murders that he refused to plead guilty for? Then Pierce County came after him for the other 2 counts of the first-degree murder that he refused to plead guilty for. But now without the protection of his Spokane County plea deal, they were going to sentence him to death. Because it wasn't included in his plea deal, which he kind of threw a bitch fit over that because he was like, I admitted to killing them. But he literally wrote that he wasn't going to be guilty for those. So they caught him in like a loophole.
Oh, these are 2 different trials too, correct?
Because it's 2 different counties.
Yeah.
This is Pierce County for those 2 that were in Tacoma because he was working in Tacoma. Remember when he was in Spokane, he was driving back to Tacoma. And so Pierce County comes after him and they got him. They pled guilty and they sentenced him to death. So that whole plea deal was for nothing. But it loops around again. So in 2013, Yates attorneys filed a habeas corpus petition in federal district court stating that Yates was mentally ill and, quote unquote, through no fault of his own, suffers from a severe paraphilic disorder that predisposed him, to commit murder. But that didn't obviously take Yates far. A Pierce County prosecutor actually said, I don't think Mr. Yates helps his cause by relying on the fact that he's a necrophiliac. Because remember all the semen found in all of those girls?
Oh,
that happened after they were dead.
Oh, God.
See, good twist.
Yeah.
And that was his, like, sorry, it's just a thing. I had to kill him so I could, like, that. He was trying to, like, use that as an excuse.
He was literally like, I'm insane, so don't kill me. I just like to have sex with dead women.
And be
super crazy.
God. Oh.
And in the statements during court, because they let all the victims' families talk to him while he was in court. And Sonny Oster's mother or grandmother, I don't remember which one, which I should have written it down, but mother or grandmother, she was like, did they mention that he had sex with all of these women after they were dead, like my sweet Sonny? Like, she brought that up in court and was pissed off about it. And he was like, he raped them after they were dead. Like they did, because they kind of left that part out in court. They were just getting him for murder. But with all the semen samples, and like with them all being sex workers, you would think like, oh, they just had sex and then he killed them. But no, it was like,
that's what I figured.
He killed them, then had sex with them, and then dumped their bodies. Like,
God. And that's why he couldn't get hard with what's her name? She still had a heartbeat. He wasn't into that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Apparently, And the one that was living and giving him oral sex, and he couldn't get erect for that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like,
no, the problem was she was alive. I don't know. It's fucked up. It's super fucked up.
It's all fucked.
So, but even after all of that, he claimed insanity, got denied that because obviously they were like, no, that's not a thing. But after all that, he did get away from the death penalty after Washington State Supreme Court ruled in 2018 that the death penalty violated the state constitution, and Yates' sentence was commuted to life without parole because Washington got rid of their fucking death sentence.
Oh, that's right.
So he sat on death row for that whole time. I think it was 16 years or something.
Well, fuck yeah. Sit there in your fucking misery, you motherfucker.
Right. And thought he was going to die for that long. But everybody knows that death row takes a long fucking time for some reason. I don't know why, but
I have my opinions on that.
I know, I do too, but that's for another time.
Yeah, we won't get into that. I haven't researched enough yet.
Tune into our Patreon.
Yeah. Well, we'll dive into the fucked up prison system. So Robert Lee Yates Jr. now spends his days incarcerated at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla, which he worked at as a prison guard back in 1975.
Oh, shit.
So it went full cycle there. When he killed those first two people, he's now spending life without parole there. And his murder spree was considered one of the worst in U.S. history because he whacked that many girls in 2 years and didn't get caught for it. But this is the whole fun part where I'm just going to like dive into this whole, it's kind of interesting. I'm going to read his apology that he publicly made to the families in court.
Okay, this will be good.
Yeah. So here we go. In the words of Robert Yates Jr. himself, nothing I can say will erase the sorrow, the pain, and the anguish that you feel that I have caused on your life. I have caused so much sorrow, much pain. You can't know how much pain I know I caused for all of you and my family. I have taken away the love and compassion and the tenderness of your loved ones, and I've submitted in that place grief and bitterness. I pray that God will right the wrongs that I have committed and that justice will bring closure to all who, as a result of my actions, have become victims. I pray and apologize to the public, this community, this nation, to law enforcement, to my family, to my lovely wife, my children who I dearly love, my friends, and my family. And then he went forward to apologize to all the friends and families of all the victims. He went through one by one and stated he was so sorry to the family and friends of all the victims. And then he says, in my struggle to overcome my guilt and shame, I have turned to God. I hope that God will replace your grief with hope and your sorrow with peace.
You can't just do that, bro. Like you can't just.
You're gonna hop from one addiction to a crack addiction to a God addiction, bro.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna excuse your ways. It doesn't work like that. I don't know. I'm all about religion and like higher powers and God and loving, but you can't do that.
That's not how this works. Oh my God. I would have been livid to hear, like, if I was like the family of these girls, like one of these girls, I would be fucking livid to hear like my family member's name like come out of his mouth. Like that, I think would just like, don't fucking say her name, Oh my God.
Each and every one, or not, I don't know if it was all of them, but a lot of them, like the family and friends of these victims, they had came forth and addressed him in court. And I watched the videos of it and like, you deserve to burn in hell. One of the moms was like, I hope you rot in a prison in a 3-foot by 3-foot prison cell for the rest of your life. But then as she was walking away, she was like, but you deserve to die. Even his daughter came up and was saying stuff, all these people just hate us. Our whole family is ruined because all the hate that is coming, not just towards my father, but towards our whole family.
Oh, I feel
and
so
she
bad
was like,
for them.
and this was the same daughter that he like had abused too. And she came forth in court next to Robert Lee Yates Sr. and made a statement. But she had also said that she loves her father. And then the dad came in and he turned to the families and he apologized to the families. And he goes, I love my son and I'm so deeply sorry. And then he turned around and Robert Yates's father hugged all of the victims' families, the ones that wanted to hug him, and embraced them. After saying that he loved his son. And I don't know, in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to hug the father of the man that killed.
Don't like that.
But then think of it again from his father's standpoint. Like, he probably feels fucking terrible that he fucking brought this monster into the fucking world.
Oh, totally.
That ruined all of these families, all these people's lives, ended lives. Like, I can only imagine how terrible he feels. So, I mean...
And that strong pull to be like, I love my son. I still love my son. I mean, like, as any parent, be like, I love my son, but
it's crazy. Fucking
I'm
nuts.
so apologizing. But, and in the wraparound of all that, I'm going to bring in astrology just because I think it's fun. Robert Lee Yates is a Gemini, which for those who know astrology will make a lot of sense because you think about the master of excuses this man was, but then he turns right back around and he's a monster, but then he turns right back around again and claims he loves God. And he claimed in his interview that was just taken in November 2020, he was like, if I had, picked up and read the Bible earlier in my life, I purely believe that none of this would have happened. He talked about the way that, if you guys want to look this up, we're going to link in on our blog or whatever somewhere, this interview that this other true crime podcaster had done. And if you just listen to the way that Robert Yates talks, I sat there like hour, I was like 2:00 in the morning. It's like hour and a half long interview. I'm just sitting there with headphones and smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer. And I'm just like, it was just so beyond me because he talked with like such confidence. Like he was like, oh yeah, this murder. Oh yeah. I mean, that was definitely like this day. And he said one of the days that he killed one of the sex workers that he was like, my wife pissed me off. She wasn't having sex with me anymore. She didn't want to be with me. She even told my kids that I was just the moneymaker and I was a roommate. And I couldn't take out my anger on her. So I turned around and I took it out on women that I went to the streets to get comfort and sex from. And if they were mean to me, then I took it out on them and like on my wife's like behalf, basically. And was like the way that he was so nonchalantly like talking about this, it was just like so fucking beyond me. And it was just so confident. And like, he was like, it's like almost like he held so much clout with it. Like he was just like, yeah, I did that. And yeah, but I also had these issues and I was molested, but I should have turned to God. And
exactly. I did it, but
and the interviewer even asked him, like, did you feel better after you killed these women? Like, did it make you feel good? Like, did you get some sort of like relief after the fact? And he was like, no, I felt even more guilty. Like, I'm a family man and I have kids and a wife and like, I should be out like, like supporting them and doing good things for them. And I'm out, killing people. Like, how does that make any sense? And like, that's how he's talking. And you're like, what? It's insane.
So now suddenly he is thinking like a fully functioning human being.
Yeah.
But when he was doing it, like all logic out the fucking window.
And he completely denied any type of satisfaction from doing it. Like he completely said like every time he said that after he killed the first two, that couple that was on a picnic, that he was like, I stayed up all night and I knew I was going to jail and I was so scared. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I didn't eat. I was petrified. I was like, what have I done?
The adrenaline. He gets off on the rush.
But like, he wouldn't admit that on the phone. There was still no admittance of any kind of, so he says, oh, I'm so sorry about the sorrow and the guilt and the pain. There's no sorrow in his mind. There's nothing. It's almost like he likes being famous. Like this interview just happened November 2020 and he was just like, yeah, I did that.
Still fucking reveling in it. That's disgusting.
It's crazy.
He's like wearing a t-shirt that says like, can't blame me. I'm a Gemini, like, no.
Oh my God. Oh, yeah. But that's it. That's the crazy fucked up story of the Spokane serial killer. For anybody that was interested and lives in Spokane, I know this shit's...
If you don't live in Spokane, Spokane's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I want to let you know. I know I'd heard his name before, but yeah, I never knew the full story. So thank you.
I didn't either. And I live here. It's insane.
Yeah. Crazy. Blew my fucking mind.
Literally the only part of that whole case that like I had a memory tied to was that I remember the Corvettes. There was something about Corvettes, and that's part of the reason why he got caught.
I mean, I was only 2 years old at the time of like most of the murders. I mean, it was 96 when he started killing, and that's the year that I was born. So
damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Oh my God, I'm so old.
I was a bit older than that, but I was still pretty young when he started killing.
Dude, it's just insane. But Spokane's, it's a really great place, guys. You should come visit.
Yeah,
Come hang out.
doesn't suck.
Sprague Avenue is actually really cool. We got a lot of great bars and restaurants on that street now.
Oh, could you just imagine, like, the person who, or however Sprague was named, like, just think of, like, and, like, these are only 2 of the people who killed sex workers off of Sprague. There were more.
Yeah.
I just think, like that street and that profession ended up, like, it's just insane to me.
That's why it was labeled Spokane Skid Row, like in Los Angeles. And it was Skid Row for a reason. I mean, I remember driving when I turned like 16 and was driving it, you could see sex workers walking down it even, that was 10 years ago.
And now there's signs all over the place that literally say prostitution is a no-go.
Yeah, all down that street.
Like city street signs. Literally say.
It was bad.
And like they've really like gentrified it. Like it's all like up and coming. Everything is looking really nice. Like 10 years ago, if you would have drove down there, you'd be like, this is a pretty sketchy looking area. Nowadays, you drive down there, like within the last 3 years, it is gorgeous, actually.
Yeah, there's Benedito's Pizza down there.
Even
there's
like
a bunch of
the ugliest parts, like they're looking pretty damn good.
Crazy.
I mean, you don't really see prostitutes. I don't know where they've moved to, but
they're all in Portland.
Some girls are still making money somewhere.
Oh, it's all.
Hashtag legalized sex work.
Exactly.
I'm all about it.
Big fan. Let's kill our precious sex workers. We love them.
Stop killing fucking psycho. Jesus Christ, we're just trying to make $1.
Yeah, right. Let the girls work, damn it. They deserve it.
All right, my friends. Thank you for tuning in to Nightcap. You guys can find us anywhere you find your podcasts. Make sure to check us out at nightcaptruecrime.com. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys. We love you.